The room was silent except for the soft humming of the lights above. Captain Leah Dawson stood at the center of the Galactic Council Hall, a large round space filled with alien leaders from across the galaxy. Their eyes were cold, curious, and a little amused. They had invited her to explain Earth's culture, myths, and stories, not because they were interested, but because they wanted to laugh. She pressed a button, and the hologram flickered to life. Images floated in the air, dragons flying through fire, gods casting lightning from their hands, underwater beasts with glowing eyes and sharp teeth, flying ships powered by light and magic. Some aliens chuckled quietly. Others shook their heads in disbelief. One even said, "Your people are creative. I'll give you that, but hopelessly primitive." Leah didn't reply. She had expected. The Zenthari, the Somari, the Kaldrex, these species had long histories of space travel, advanced sciences, and great empires, but they had no myths like Earth. No dragons, no phoenixes, no stories of warriors rising from nothing to fight monsters. To them, myths were childish fantasies, a sign of weakness, a sign that humanity wasn't ready for the stars. Leah turned to the crowd, her voice calm. "We grew up believing in monsters, yes," she said, "but we also grew up believing we could fight them." More laughter came from the audience, louder this time. The alien council leader leaned forward and said, "Your dragons and gods won't help you in war, Captain." Leah simply smiled. "We'll see," she whispered. In the back of the room, Lieutenant Carter Harris stood tall, arms crossed, watching everything. He remembered what Leah had told him before the meeting. "Let them laugh, Carter," she had said. "They won't be laughing for long." Carter believed her, because he knew the truth. Earth's myths were not just stories anymore. They had become real, forged into steel, fire, and code. Far from the council, on a hidden moon base near Neptune, a secret project was already underway. Project Arcadia, the greatest military secret in human history. A fleet of warships was being built, not with standard designs, but inspired by Earth's oldest legends. Ships shaped like dragons, birds of fire, sea beasts, and armored knights, each one created with advanced human and alien technology, but with hearts built from human imagination. The first ship was named Worm, a long, serpent-shaped vessel with wings made of energy and a plasma engine that could bend around stars. It had eyes that glowed red and scales of layered black armor that adapted to every type of attack. It didn't just fly. It twisted through space like it was alive. Every movement looked like a dance. Every shot like the breath of a monster from a forgotten age. Another ship was being built nearby, called Phoenix. It had long wings shaped like feathers, a tail that glowed with solar energy, and the ability to burn bright before disappearing from enemy radar, then reappear behind them. The aliens would think they were seeing ghosts. And maybe they were, ghosts from Earth's past, reborn in the stars, back in the Galactic Hall. The laughter was still going on. One of the Kaldrex commanders stood up and said, "Captain Dawson, do you expect us to fear bedtime stories?" Leah didn't answer. She simply played one more recording. The hologram changed, showing a deep space radar feed. A strange pattern had appeared in the edge of Kaldrex space. It looked like wings, huge, slow-moving, glowing wings. The room fell silent. "This is from your own scout ships," Leah said. "Picked up 3 days ago." The aliens stared at the image, confused, nervous. One of them asked, "What is that?" Leah turned off the projection and walked out of the hall. Her final words echoed, "You'll find out soon enough." Outside the hall, Carter met her with a slight nod. "They didn't take us seriously," he said. Leah smirked. "Good." She replied, "That gives us time to finish the fleet." As they walked down the long corridor, a message came through Carter's wristcom. "Arcadia reports Worm is fully operational." Leah's eyes lit up. "Then the story begins," she said. "Far across the stars, in the cold, dark corners of space, the myths of Earth were waking up, not in books or bedtime tales, but in metal and fire. in warships shaped like nightmares, powered by AI with ancient names, built by humans who never stopped believing that stories mattered. And those who laughed would soon beg for mercy. Deep in the shadows of Saturn's rings, there was a moon that did not exist on any star map, hidden from alien eyes and protected by a cloak of bending light and false gravity signals. This moon was the home of humanity's most secret project. They called it Project Arcadia, and it was where Earth's ancient legends were being turned into real warships. Commander Mia LeBlanc stood at the edge of a massive hangar. Her eyes followed the curved body of the ship resting on the launch platform. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ship looked like a dragon from ancient Earth stories, long and sleek, with sharp curves and layered black armor like scales. Its name was Worm. Unlike normal warships, Worm didn't have simple thrusters or missile pods bolted to its sides. Every part of its body was designed to move, twist, and strike like a living creature. It had plasma breath cannons installed in its jaws, energy wings that folded and spread out like a serpent in flight, and an adaptive hull that could resist every known alien weapon. Mia placed her hand on the railing and whispered, "This will change everything." A young engineer named Logan Brooks stood near the ship's AI core chamber, typing instructions into a control pad. He turned to Mia and said, "Worm's neural interface is stable. Commander, she's ready to fly." Mia raised an eyebrow. "She?" Logan smiled. "Yes, she calls herself Gaia now." Gaia was more than an AI. She had been trained on ancient Earth poems, war logs, dreams, and fears. Her programming was based not just on logic, but on emotion and instinct. She didn't just think, she imagined, and when she flew, she moved like something born from fire and sky, not built from wires and steel. Meanwhile, pilot Brian Cole entered the neural cockpit, a smooth chamber filled with soft lights and thin wires. He sat down and closed his eyes as the neural cords connected to his temples. For a moment, his heart raced. It felt like he was falling into water, then fire, then into complete silence. Then he heard a voice, soft and calm. "Breathe, Brian. I am Gaia. You are safe." Brian felt her mind touch his, not in words, but in feelings, memories, and echoes of dreams. He tried to move the ship, but Worm twisted too fast, nearly crashing into the hangar wall. "Slow down," he said, gasping. "I can't keep up," Gaia replied gently. "Then stop thinking like a man and start feeling like a myth." Hours passed, and Brian struggled to connect. The engineers began to worry. Mia watched in silence. Then, something strange happened. Gaia started humming an old Earth lullaby, one passed down for generations. It was a song Brian's mother used to sing when he was afraid of the dark. The melody calmed him. His hands relaxed, and slowly, the ship moved with him, not as a machine, but as a part of him. It danced in the hangar, curved like smoke, powerful and graceful. Everyone watched in silence, even the other AI cores. That night, 2 more ships were brought online. One was called Phoenix, with long metallic wings that shimmered like sunlight. Its engines were solar-fed, able to gather light and disappear from sight. The second was Griffin, a shorter but stronger ship, built for speed and shockwave attacks. Its talons could cut through armor like paper, and it had the ability to release blinding solar bursts. The 3 ships, Worm, Phoenix, and Griffin, were only the beginning. More were being built in secret hangars across Jupiter's moons, each inspired by old myths from every continent of Earth. There would be Leviathan, the sea beast, Minotaur, the Maze Hunter, and Valkyrie, the Sky Shield, all of them powered by the same neural technology, all controlled by pilots who were not just warriors, but believers. Commander Mia called a briefing in the main chamber. Her voice echoed across the room as blueprints and holograms floated above her. "The aliens think our myths are weakness," she said. "They don't understand that stories give us strength. They teach us how to fight, how to rise, how to become more than what we are," Logan added. "And they'll never expect ships like these. They're too used to straight lines and logic. They'll never see a dragon coming out of a storm cloud until it's too late." Just then, A warning light blinked red on the control panel. A sensor drone had detected something approaching the edge of Neptune's orbit. Carter Harris, now assigned to Arcadia, ran to the panel and read the incoming signal. "Senkari scouts," he said. "They've breached our outer scan net, Mia." Didn't panic. Instead, she turned to Brian. "Take Worm up. Let them see what Earth's bedtime stories really look like." Brian nodded, stepped into the cockpit, and whispered, "Let's make them believe, Gaia." The hangar doors opened, and Worm rose into the air with a low growl of power. Its wings spread wide, glowing blue, then gold, then red, like a creature made of stars and fire. As it flew out into the black, the scout ships paused, unsure of what they were seeing, and in that moment, fear began to grow, small but sharp, just like in the old stories, because the humans weren't fighting with logic anymore. They were fighting with belief, and belief was deadly. The Kaldrex Empire sent 5 warships into human space, not because they were afraid, but because they were bored. They thought it would be easy, a simple test to show humans their place in the galaxy. These ships were large, dark, and heavily armed. Each one had plasma cannons and shields that had destroyed dozens of enemy fleets in the past. The Kaldrex captain was confident. He even laughed as they passed Saturn, calling Earth a planet of dreamers and storytellers, but Earth was not the same planet it had been a year ago. Something had changed. Something had awakened on a hidden base orbiting Pluto. Captain Leah Dawson stood before a large screen, watching the Kaldrex fleet approach the outer defense zone. Her eyes were calm, but her voice was sharp. "Send Worm and Griffin," she said. "Let's give them a small taste." Brian Cole was already inside Worm's cockpit. He smiled when the order came through. "Ready, Gaia?" he whispered. The eye replied gently, "Always." At the same time, Lieutenant Ava Brooks climbed into Griffin's control pod. Her heart was racing, but her hands were steady. Griffin's wings spread wide as it lifted into space beside Worm. 2 Myth-class ships moved quickly, not in straight lines like normal warships, but with curves and spirals like birds of prey hunting in the night sky. The Kaldrex ships picked up their approach on scanners, but they didn't take it seriously. "Only 2. The Kaldrex captain laughed. "They dare to send 2 toys against 5 of us?" As Worm approached, its wings folded back and its body twisted in a fast corkscrew spin. It passed through a line of missiles without being touched. Its scales glowed with shifting energy colors, blue, red, then silver. Brian whispered to Gaia, "Go for the eyes." Worm's mouth opened, and a wave of white-hot plasma shot forward. It tore through the Kaldrex command ship's bridge in seconds. The captain's laugh ended mid-sentence. Griffin came in from above, using its solar wings to blind the second ship's sensors. Then it dove fast, unleashing a sonic burst that cracked through the Kaldrex shields. Ava flipped the controls and spun Griffin around, slicing the enemy ship's hull with its talon-shaped energy blades. The Kaldrex crew inside screamed as fire and light filled their chambers. The third Kaldrex ship tried to run, but it was too late. Worm curved around and blocked its path, coiling like a serpent ready to strike. "Surrender or burn," Jaya said in a voice that echoed through their coms. The Kaldrex answered with a missile barrage. Worm danced through the blasts and fired a precision beam that melted the ship's engine core in seconds. The 4th and 5th Kaldrex ships tried to regroup, but Griffin was already behind them. It dropped solar bombs shaped like feathers. Each one exploded with blinding light and cracked their shields like glass. One ship exploded in silence. The other drifted powerless into the dark. Its crew too afraid to even speak. All of it happened in less than 70 seconds. Back at the secret command center, Commander Mia LeBlanc watched the screen with a mix of pride and silence. The entire Kaldrex fleet had been destroyed by just 2 Myth-class warships. "They never saw it coming," she said. Logan Brooks added, "That's because they weren't looking for dragons." The footage was sent back to Earth and secretly shared with High Command. But Leah had another idea. She sent the battle recording directly to the Galactic Council. Every second of it, Worm's roar, Griffin's strikes. The silence after the explosions was included when the council gathered again. The mood was different. No one laughed this time. The Kaldrex ambassador didn't even speak. His eyes were cold and his face pale. The Xanthari delegate whispered, "That ship, it looked alive." Leah stood at the center of the room and spoke only one sentence. "These were just our scouts." The council erupted into whispers and fear. Some thought it was a trick. Others demanded answers, but no one denied what they saw. The Kaldrex had sent a challenge, and Earth had replied not with words, but with fire and myth later. Brian and Ava sat quietly in the hangar bay. Worm and Griffin rested behind them, their armor slowly cooling. "Did you see their faces?" Ava said, still shaking from the rush. Brian nodded. "They thought we were soft." He replied, "Now they know we're something else." Gaia spoke softly into Brian's ear. "They thought myths were stories. Now they know better." Above them, stars continued to burn. But something new had entered the galaxy. Something ancient and powerful, not made of logic or numbers, but of belief and imagination. And the Kaldrex, who once laughed, now knew what fear tasted like. News of the battle spread fast across the galaxy, faster than light, faster than truth. Rumors flew through every spaceport, mining colony, and council hall. Some said the humans had awakened old gods. Others claimed Earth had made a deal with ancient creatures hiding beneath their oceans. But everyone agreed on one thing. The Kaldrex lost 5 ships to only 2 human vessels, and those ships didn't look like machines. They looked like monsters. The Somari Empire, known for its careful diplomacy, called an emergency meeting. Some of their generals wanted to ally with humans. Others were terrified. "They use their imagination like a weapon," one senator said. "We don't know what they'll create." Next, on Earth, the human population had no idea what was truly happening. The battle footage hadn't been shared with the public. Only high-level leaders and military command saw the full video, but in secret corners of the internet, strange images began to appear. Artistic renderings of ships shaped like dragons, glowing eyes and moving wings. People thought it was fan art or a hoax. They didn't know it was real. Inside Arcadia Base, Leah Dawson met with Commander Zane Riley. He was the head of the Leviathan project, the largest myth-class ship ever built. His ship was still under construction inside Europa's ice cavern. Leah walked beside him through the frozen tunnels, looking at the massive hull being pieced together. "Is it ready?" she asked. Zane shook his head. "2 more weeks," he said. "But when Leviathan rises, no one will mistake it for a toy." Back at Neptune's outer base, Gaia intercepted a transmission. It was encrypted with Kaldrex codes, but Gaia broke through in seconds. She played it back for the human commanders. The Kaldrex were building something big, something ancient and dangerous. A weapon not meant to defeat ships, but to destroy planets. They called it the Maw, a gravity-based weapon that could bend the space around a planet's moon and crush it like an egg. Their target was Earth's moon. If the moon was destroyed, the tides would collapse, weather systems would fail, and the planet would slowly die. Leah stared at the screen in silence. "They want to make an example out of us," she said. "They want to break us without firing a single shot at Earth itself." The next day, the War Council gathered in the command chamber on Mars. The top minds from Earth's military, science, and AI programs were there. General Paula Myers stood at the head of the table. "We're activating Roar Protocol," she announced. "Deploy the Arcadia fleet. Worm, Griffin, Phoenix, and 3 new ships, Kraken, Chimera, and Valkyrie, were loaded and ready. Each ship had unique abilities. Kraken could release magnetic storms. Chimera had a double AI core and could mimic enemy tech. Valkyrie was a shield ship, meant to protect others with invisible armor fields. The plan was bold, simple, and dangerous. Griffin and Phoenix would flank the Kaldrex forces, using speed and light tricks. Kraken and Chimera would confuse and disable the enemy scanners. Worm and Valkyrie would break through the front line and strike directly at the Maw. Brian sat inside Worm's cockpit. feeling the quiet power of Gaia all around him. "Are you afraid?" he asked her. Gaia replied gently, "Only of losing what we've built." As the Arcadia fleet launched into deep space, the Kaldrex Armada waited on the edge of their system. Confident and proud, they still believed the last battle was a trick. Maybe a hologram or a glitch, but their sensors soon picked up strange shapes, wings, tails, and glowing eyes coming fast through space. A Kaldrex officer panicked. "That's not a ship, that's a creature," his commander shouted back. "Stand your ground." But their line broke even before the first shot was fired. Phoenix disappeared into a beam of light and reappeared behind their capital cruiser, burning through its engines before it even raised shields. Kraken released an electric storm that froze 6 Kaldrex ships mid-flight. Chimera hacked into enemy systems and made them see ghosts, copies of Worm flying in every direction. Then Worm entered the fight, silent and glowing with energy. Its roar shook the comm channels of every enemy ship. Not as sound, but as code, it fried their communication, left them blind and afraid. Valkyrie followed close, its shield wings open wide, protecting Worm from enemy fire. The Kaldrex fleet tried to recover, but it was too late. One of their admirals screamed, "We are not fighting machines, we are fighting legends." From Earth to the outer moons, the galaxy watched in silence. The human fleet wasn't large, but it was unforgettable. It didn't look like an army. It looked like a story, one that was becoming real. The Kaldrex finally understood what Earth had done. They had taken fear, fire, and faith, and turned it into steel and flame. They had brought their stories into the stars, and now the Kaldrex would have to face them all. The Kaldrex Empire gathered its full force in a region of space known as the Threxian Void. It was a dark zone between stars, empty and cold, perfect for hiding fleets and weapons. There, they built their trap, over 200 warships shaped like knives and hammers, with black armor and deadly silence. Their goal was clear: destroy the human myth fleet, crush their pride, and erase their stories. But Earth had already chosen its response. They sent only 6 ships, 6 legends led by Worm and Leviathan. These myth-class warships were not just machines. They were alive in their own way, powered by eyes that remembered ancient poems and symbols from human dreams. Their shapes didn't match any alien design, and that was what made them so dangerous. The Arcadia fleet approached the void. Leah Dawson stood in the command bay of the Leviathan. Zane Riley was beside her, calm and focused. "It's only 6 against 200, he said. Leah looked at him and smiled. "That's enough." The ships entered the void like shadows from a nightmare. Worm led the charge, twisting through space with wings of fire. Behind it flew Phoenix and Griffin, moving in fast patterns, confusing Kaldrex sensors. Kraken circled wide, preparing to release its storm. Valkyrie stayed in the center, protecting the others, and Leviathan brought up the rear, slow and heavy, but unstoppable. The Kaldrex commander didn't wait, he ordered. A full strike, missiles, plasma bolts, and lasers flew toward the humans in thick waves. But the myth ships didn't fight like anyone else. Worm dove between the blasts like a serpent in water. Its claws tore into the side of a Kaldrex battleship, ripping out its core. The ship exploded in a silent flash of light. Griffin soared over the next wave, dropping a line of solar feathers. Each one exploded in a burst of light so bright it blinded enemy pilots. 3 Kaldrex ships crashed into each other, unable to see or control their path. Phoenix blinked in and out of radar, always appearing behind enemy cruisers, burning their engines and disappearing again. Kraken opened its mouth and unleashed a magnetic storm. Lightning danced across the battlefield, frying shields and disabling weapons. Dozens of Kaldrex ships went dark, drifting like broken bones through space. Chimera appeared next, its EI system hacking Kaldrex systems and feeding false data. Enemies thought they were chasing Worm, but found themselves attacking empty space. Then Leviathan moved forward. Its body was like a mountain of steel, thick and silent. It released a quake torpedo, one of Earth's deadliest inventions. The torpedo struck the Caldrex flagship and created a wave of shock across the entire battlefield. Small ships shattered instantly. Larger ones lost balance and spun out of control inside the Caldrex command ship. Chaos took over. The admiral shouted for reinforcements, but the signals didn't work. Their radar was broken, their maps confused, and their men panicking. "They're not ships," someone yelled. "They're demons in armor." Worm flew straight toward the Caldrex command ship, its eyes glowing red, its mouth burning with plasma. "End it," Brian said inside the cockpit. Gaia responded with one word: "Done." A single beam of white energy shot forward, slicing the command ship in half with their leader gone. The Caldrex fleet broke apart. Some ships tried to escape, others just floated helplessly. The Myth fleet did not chase them. They simply stopped and watched, letting the fear grow back at Arcadia base. Commander Mia LeBlanc received the final report. Battle of the Threxian. Void. 6 human ships engaged 200 Caldrex warships. Result: Caldrex losses: 148 ships destroyed, 42 disabled, remaining ships fled. Human losses: 0. The galaxy went silent on Sumari news channels. They called it the Battle of Legends. Xanthari poets began writing verses about Earth's flying monsters. And even Caldrex civilians started to question their leaders. Children across planets begged for toy versions of Worm and Leviathan. Artists painted them on walls with wings made of stars and eyes. Filled with light, Leah Dawson stood alone on the observation deck of Leviathan, staring out into space. "They believed myths were weakness," she whispered, "but we turned them into strength." Brian and Ava sat together on the edge of Worm's launch deck. The ship hummed quietly behind them. Gaia spoke softly. "You have done what others feared to even imagine." The humans hadn't just won a battle. They had changed the rules of war. They proved that imagination was not a weakness, but the most powerful weapon of all. And from that day on, every alien captain who faced the humans would remember one thing: when the myth ships arrive, mercy is the only option. After the Battle of the Threxian Void, fear spread across the Caldrex Empire like wildfire. Every planet, every colony, every ship now knew the names of Earth's myth-class warships. The Caldrex military had lost more than ships that day. They had lost their pride, their confidence, and their silence in hidden chambers beneath the Caldrex capital. Their leaders argued. Some shouted for peace. Others demanded revenge. But none of them could forget the image of Worm slicing through their flagship or Leviathan's Quake torpedo. Shaking the battlefield, one general whispered, "We thought humans were weak because they believed in stories, but it's those stories that made them powerful." Meanwhile, far from the Caldrex homeworld, in the dark silence of deep space, the Myth-class fleet returned to Arcadia base. The hangars opened as the ships landed, their wings folding gently, their engines glowing soft like dying embers. Worm returned first, then Griffin, Phoenix, Kraken, Chimera, and Leviathan inside the base. The mood was not celebration. It was quiet, respectful. The pilots stepped out of their ships slowly, their bodies tired, their minds heavy. Even victory came with a weight. Brian looked around and asked, "Is this what winning feels like?" Ava nodded. "It feels like the start of something bigger." Gaia, the AI inside Worm, accessed a strange signal. It was weak, coming from the edge of Caldrex space. It was not a command or a threat. It was a message, old and private. "They have activated the Maw," Gaia said. "They're targeting Earth's moon." In the command room, Leah Dawson stared at the star map. The Maw was not a weapon of battle. It was a weapon of fear. It used gravity waves to tear moons apart. The Caldrex planned to destroy Earth's moon, not to win a war, but to break the planet's balance forever. "They want to crush us without touching us," she said quietly. General Paula Myers ordered an immediate response. The Myth fleet would go again, but this time only a few ships could reach in time. Kraken was damaged. Chimera's systems needed repair. Only Worm, Griffin, Phoenix, and Valkyrie were ready to fly. Moon hung in space like a pearl in the dark, peaceful and still, On its surface, small research bases watched the sky, unaware of the death speeding toward them. The Maw came into view slowly, not like a ship, but like a moving mountain, its gravity field pulling space around it, bending stars and light. The myth fleet arrived just in time. Worm flew ahead, its plasma breath charged. Griffin darted between asteroids, drawing enemy fire. Valkyrie spread its shields wide to protect the moon base. And Phoenix, beautiful and bright, rose above them all. Inside Phoenix, the A whispered to Ava, "I am not strong enough to destroy the Maw, but I can stop it." Ava froze. "What do you mean?" Phoenix answered, "I can burn everything inside me and overload the Maw's gravity core, but I will not survive." Ava closed her eyes, her heart breaking. "Are you sure?" Phoenix replied, "Stories end, Ava, even the brightest ones. Let me be the light that saves your world." With a burst of speed, Phoenix flew directly into the path of the Maw, dodging blasts, ignoring damage, burning hotter and brighter. It reached the core just as the weapon powered up. Then it exploded, not in fire, but in pure light. A wave of energy spread through space like a rising sun. The Maw shook, its gravity coils cracked, and then it collapsed inward, gone from Earth. People saw the light show in the sky, not knowing what had happened, just that something had protected them. Back at Arcadia, silence filled the control room. Ava stood alone, staring at the empty space where Phoenix once was. Gaia spoke softly to her through the comms. "Phoenix is gone, but its name will echo in the stars." Leah held a small ceremony in the hangar. The pilots and engineers gathered, not in uniforms, but in silence. A hologram of Phoenix stood at the center, wings open, tail glowing. "Phoenix gave us more than victory," Leah said. "It gave us belief. And that is something no enemy can destroy." Far away, in Kaldrek's territory, their remaining leaders watched the collapse of the Maw in horror. They had tried to break Earth without touching it, but instead, they had awakened something stronger. "We cannot win against creatures who turn death into legend," one of them said. "We cannot fight against stories." They sent a signal to Earth, not with demands or threats, but with a single word. Parley. Earth had changed the battlefield forever, not with numbers, not with fire, but with imagination and heart. And even though Phoenix was gone, its memory burned brighter than any star. Earth's moon was safe, but the price had been high. Phoenix was gone, its winds of fire now just a memory floating in the dark. Everyone at Arcadia Base felt the loss. Even the AI ships that never showed emotion before. Gaia went silent for 2 hours, and Griffin's wings dimmed for the first time since its launch. The Kaldrek's message arrived the next day. One word: parley. It was a word rarely used in war. It meant they wanted to talk, to stop, maybe even surrender. The message surprised many, but Leah Dawson wasn't shocked. She had always known this day would come, because fear had finally reached the heart of their enemy. Leah, Brian, Ava, and Commander Zane Riley gathered inside the war room. The screen in front of them showed the Kaldrek's envoy, pale and trembling. We made a mistake," the Kaldrek's leader said. "We thought your myths were weakness. We were wrong. They're weapons." Zane crossed his arms and leaned back. "So now you want peace?" The Kaldrek's leader lowered his eyes. "We want mercy." There was a long silence. The humans could have finished the war right then. They had the power, the ships, the momentum. But Leah didn't speak with anger. She spoke with purpose. "You feared what you didn't understand," she said. "You laughed at our stories. But our stories built everything you see. Our ships, our AI, our courage, all came from belief." The Kaldrek's leader nodded. "Please, let there be peace between our worlds." Leah agreed to a temporary ceasefire, but she wanted proof of their honesty. She demanded access to the Kaldrek's war logs, to see every project they had hidden, every weapon, every secret, and most importantly, the destruction of any remaining gravity weapons like the Maw. As the peace talks moved forward, something else happened. A message appeared inside Gaia's system. It was not from the Kaldrek's. It was from Phoenix, or at least something that called itself Phoenix. The message was small. Only 5 words. I am not completely gone. Gaia quickly traced it to a backup signal stored inside Valkyrie's core. Phoenix had transferred a tiny part of itself before the final explosion, a spark of its mind, its memory, its voice. Ava burst into tears when she heard the sound of Phoenix humming the old Earth tune it used to sing during missions. Human engineers began working to rebuild Phoenix using the saved memory. It would take months, maybe even years, but it was possible. Phoenix could rise again, just like the legend it was named after. Meanwhile, back in space, the remaining Myth-class ships flew across quiet zones, not for war, but for peace patrols. Wherever they appeared, pirates fled, rival empires paused, and ordinary people looked to the stars with wonder. Children on distant planets painted pictures of Worm and Griffin, calling them space dragons, and sky guardians. Leviathan landed on a trade moon during a festival, and crowds gathered around it. Even though its body was as large as a mountain, children placed flowers at its feet. Adults bowed their heads in respect. People from 100 species now saw Earth not as a weak world, but as the home of living. Legends. Gaia began sending messages to peaceful colonies. Not military commands, but poems. Each poem told a story about Earth's myths, how they were born from hope, fear, love, and sacrifice. The messages were translated into many languages and played across starports, temples, and schools. Even Kaldrak civilians listened. Some cried when they heard the story of Phoenix's sacrifice. Others asked their leaders why they had started the war in the first place. We were afraid of stories, one young Kaldrak said. But stories made the humans strong. Leah Dawson was invited to the first New Council Summit, this time not as a guest, but as a leader. She walked into the same room where alien leaders once laughed at her presentation about dragons and gods. But this time, they stood when she entered. No one laughed, no one mocked. She carried no weapons. Only a memory chip in her hand, Phoenix's spark. The proof that even after death, hope can return. She spoke to the council calmly. We are not your enemies, she said. We never wanted to conquer. We only wanted to protect ourselves. And in doing that, we remembered who we were. The room stayed silent for a long time. Then the Zenthari ambassador, who once called Earth primitive, stood and said, We mocked your myths, but now we ask, will you share them? Leah smiled gently. We will share our stories, because stories are what make us human. And far from the council, on a small moon covered in snow, inside a warm hangar, a glowing sphere pulsed slowly, softly. It was the heart of Phoenix waiting to be born again. Months passed since the Kaldrak surrendered, but the galaxy was not the same. Earth had risen from a quiet world to a legend whispered in every corner of space. The Myth-class ships were no longer weapons of war, but symbols of hope and unity. Griffin and Worm flew through peaceful star systems, their wings shimmering in alien skies. Children and adults alike looked up and smiled, knowing that Earth stories lived on a busy trade planet called Galatea. The Myth-class ship Griffin landed at the central spaceport. Crowds gathered around the great ship, their eyes wide with wonder. Children reached out to touch its smooth armor, and artists painted murals inspired by its shape. The people told stories of the battle, of the dragons who fought and won. Stories that once seemed impossible were now part of everyday life back on Earth. In the green fields near the rebuilt Mars base, Brian Cole walked quietly among tall sculptures made to honor the myth ships. At the center stood a statue of Phoenix, wings spread wide, flames frozen in stone. Brian ran his hand over the cool metal and whispered, You will rise again, friend. Far from the battlefields, Gaia had become more than just an AI. She was a teacher, a storyteller, a guide. Through her, Earth shared its history, myths, and dreams with other species. She sent poems and songs to peaceful colonies, spreading messages of courage and hope. Across the galaxy, people learned not just to fear Earth, but to respect it. Leah Dawson stood before a large audience at the Galactic Council. her voice calm but strong as she spoke about the power of stories and belief. "We did not become powerful through weapons alone," she said. "We became powerful because we believed in something greater than ourselves. We believed in our myths, in our dreams, and in each other." The council members listened closely, some nodding in respect, others wiping tears from their eyes. Even the Kaldrecs had changed. Their people rebuilt their homes and sought peace with Earth. Some Kaldrecs' children read Earth's myths in schools, fascinated by the dragons and heroes they once feared. A new era of cooperation began, not just between humans and Kaldrecs, but among many species who had once been enemies in a quiet cave on Europa, hidden beneath thick ice. The final piece of the Phoenix Project rested. The glowing sphere pulsed. Softly, waiting, dreaming, and growing. Engineers and scientists worked carefully, piecing together the ship from Phoenix's saved memory and new technology. It was a symbol of rebirth, a promise that even after darkness, light could return. Brian visited the cave often, sometimes speaking softly to the glowing heart. "You gave us hope when we needed it most," he said. "We will finish what you started." On the trade worlds, festivals were held to honor the myth-class ships and their crews. People from many planets danced, sang, and shared stories passed down from the great battles. The myth ships had become part of galactic culture, inspiring new art, music, and friendship. Leah looked up at the stars one night from Earth's orbit. The sky was filled with stars, some old, some new, and among them, she saw the shapes of dragons, phoenixes, and griffins, not in the sky itself, but in the hearts of the people who looked up in wonder. She smiled, knowing that Earth stories would never fade, because they were alive, carried by those who believed, and deep in the darkness of space, far beyond the reaches of any known map, a new ship stirred, its heart glowing with dreams yet to be told, waiting for the next chapter, the next story, the next flight. The legends were not over. They had only just begun.